What's up, beautiful people, and welcome back to the channel. You know the brand, P&Z Life Coaching. You know the man, Coach Mike James. And I'm back again with another awesome episode segment of Black Business Booming. I'm excited because it's always dope people that I have on here. And today is nothing different. It's nothing short of amazing. I'm excited to get this to you all so you can hear this awesome story. Before we get started, stop what you're doing. Stop what you're doing. Don't scroll. Go ahead and subscribe. I want you to like, share, comment as we go through this interview. Anything that stood out to you, tell somebody about it. Tell your friend, tell your mama, your cousin, tell your auntie, your daddy, all of them. Tell them about the channel for you to get more exciting interviews such as this, Black Business Booming, impactful conversations, and my dubs of the day, and a lot of other good things on the channel. So subscribe if you haven't already. So without further ado, let's jump into it. I'm excited because y'all hear me say often, Convos fam. A lot of dope and amazing people, entrepreneurs, and just beautiful souls in general that are doing some amazing things in the community. And, you know, maybe you can attest to this, sis. The only thing for me, I just wish it was bigger. I wish more people were able to see the amazingness that goes down from day to day in those convo streets, as I call it. So another Convos fam, I'm excited about this. Sis, I want you to just take a moment and let everybody know your name, introduce yourself, and a little bit about, maybe just the name, your background, and the name of your business before we dive into it.
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. And so for your audience, my name is Elease Dillard. And in a nutshell, I graduated college debt-free without taking out any loans along the way. And so I am the founder of the Student Navigator, where we teach students how to fund college debt-free. I'm also the author of my book, Funding College Debt-Free. And then I'm also the creator of the Let's Break the Odds initiative, which really stemmed, and I guess we could talk about that later, but where I'm the host, and what's a part of that is I'm the host of Break the Odds podcast. So the mission of that is just to navigate individuals towards breaking the odds in their life, family, career, and communities. So that's me in a nutshell.
Nice. I love it, Elise. And that it's so much of what you said, right, in a nutshell, but that's a lot. And yes, for all of you listening, all of you watching this, yes, that's correct. You heard her say she graduated from college debt-free, and what she's done. That's why I couldn't wait to have you on here, because I know this is going to be impactful for a lot of people, and something awesome. And one of the things too is I'm the vice president for a local nonprofit here, and we serve the youth. And so with this, I want to make sure I share that as well, because a lot of times that's one of those fears, right, about going to college. And it's like, oh my goodness, I'm hearing my relatives, that are in their 40s and 50s, still paying back student loans. So I'm so excited about that. So at least with your business, the Student Navigator, just talk for a moment about like when you started your business and what inspired you to do so.
Yeah, so I started my business shortly after I graduated college, and really just what inspired me to do that was, my journey of funding college debt-free was I played sports my whole life, specifically basketball, and I had full intentions of, continuing to play in college, and that was just my intention. But it wasn't until around my senior year of high school I began to really think, because it's kind of like when you're about to graduate, it's something about that in your mind. You begin to reflect on your future, and so I began to really think a little more intentionally about my future, my senior year of high school, and think like, okay, like, what do I want to go to college for? Like, what do I want to do as a career? And so having a love for STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, having a love for that space, I decided that, to best focus on my academics, I chose not to play basketball. I thought that'd be the best decision for me academically. And so here I was, my senior year of high school. Schools were interested in me to, potentially play on their team. And I made the hard decision of choosing not to play. And so I remember making that decision. It was definitely a huge risk because I only had months left before graduating, but I remember I sat in that financial aid office. I had applied for colleges, and I sat in the financial aid office of the college that I had chosen to go to. And she began to tell me like the average amount of student loan debt. She began to tell me the cost. And I just my mind just was like, oh my gosh, I began to feel so overwhelmed because I just told my parents like, hey, college is going to be up to me since I chose not to play basketball. And I was thinking, how am I going to do this? And I remember just feeling so overwhelmed and not knowing what to do. But I realized walking out of that financial aid office, I had two choices to make: either just do nothing and take out a loan, or just work as hard as I could to, get as much funding as I could between now and when my first college bill was due. And so I chose that second option. I took action, and sure enough, fast forward, I earned enough to fund my freshman year debt free, took action again, funded my sophomore year debt free. And all this is through trial and error, and just kind of duplicated what was working and year after for me. And then just for my third and fourth year until I crossed the stage debt free. But during that journey, like I said, it was trial and error. There wasn't like, when I was in that situation of choosing not to play basketball, it wasn't like I was like, oh, well, I know this resource that can teach me how to be debt free. Instead, there was nothing there. And I realized, like, after I graduated, a lot of students felt the same way. I had given a talk or a discussion about how I was about to graduate debt free, and just the response I got from students just made me realize, like, okay, I wasn't alone in that journey. Students are hungry for this information. They just don't have that go-to resource to teach them how. There's resources out there to find funding, but to like teach you how, it's a lot of minor things that go into that. And so I decided to change that. And so I wanted to be a part of changing the dialogue when it comes to college, because we often talk about getting admitted into college, and that's definitely important, but the cost part is not often included in that conversation. So I'm here to change that. That's what inspired me to start the Student Navigator.
Wow. That's so amazing, Elease, because, for anybody who, whether you were an athlete or not, a student athlete or not, but anyone who's started college, maybe in college, or has finished for sure, can feel the gravity of when you say the risk you took, first of all, to say, no, you know what, I'm not going to continue with, my sports path, because that can be hard, right? Because one of the things when you're in high school, most of the time, for most of us. Now, I guess at least we can pause and say, well, some teenagers, very realistic, but for the most part, a lot of times, if you're at that varsity level in high school, all you're thinking is that, okay, if I'm starting here, if I'm good, if schools are seeking after me, I can go all the way. I can go to the pros. Like, I'm good, I'll have a scholarship. I don't need. So for you to even, like you said, take that risk to say, oh, you know what, I'm not going to do that. I have a passion in something else, and I want to navigate that. This is what I'm going to do. And then after the risk, the trial and error of, I think that's amazing. That trial and error of doing that, and to look back. And now that passion, most times when you ask that question of why did you, or what led you to starting your business, and it's a passion, you want to help someone. And I love that about pretty much every guest I've had on Black Business Booming. It really is a passion that you want to help someone else with something that you experience, or fill that gap of void that you see. So if you think back, Elease, if you think back to when you finished school, right? And a lot of times, even though you have an idea of what you want to do, there's still this thing of, how do I do this? So what was one of the largest challenges or biggest challenges, or some of those challenges that you face in starting the Student Navigator and starting that process of being an entrepreneur?
Oh gosh, I mean, there's so many. I would say one of the challenges for sure was, this was kind of a niche or a space that kind of really wasn't existent. I mean, of course, you have the education industry and the education space. You do have the college prep space, and that is a lot of amazing resources to help you with that. But like when it comes to like teaching how to fund college debt free, like that was kind of something that was still not really saturated, so to speak. And so I kind of was like having to go through this on my own in terms of entering like an industry or a space that didn't, it could be different if I was wanting to start, like, for example, maybe a lawn care business. There's so many different lawn care businesses out there where you can kind of see like, what works and what hasn't in the industry over time. There's a lot of data and stuff like that, market research. But when it came to teaching how to fund college debt free, it kind of was not that saturated.
Right.
So it was a lot of entering that wasn't easy. I think also just I was very young, I graduated with a degree. As I told you, my passion was STEM, and I did get a chance to do neuroscience research and some other research and do that. So my degree is in cell biology with a concentration in biotechnology. So here's someone with that degree about to start a business, like, you know what I mean? My classes were like microbiology, bioinformatics, all those kind of classes, biochemistry, like those are my classes. So taking like an entrepreneurship degree, I didn't have that background. So it was things like that. That wasn't easy. I think also I would say the biggest one was mindset. A lot of people did not believe that funding college debt free was possible. And on top of that, me structuring this business online because I wanted to eliminate the geographical barrier for students. I wanted the Student Navigator, and I still do, to be the go-to resource for students. And so I did not want, because a student lived out of state or because a student didn't have transportation, to have that be a barrier for them to get this knowledge. So I created it. We operate online. And that was at the time, even though that was only years ago, doing online business and like that was still kind of new at the time. So it was just a lot of mindset things where I was dealing with people from the older generation. Like I remember I was at a networking event and somebody of an older generation, they were like, if I had to guess, I'd say they're maybe in like their 60s, and they're like, what'd you do? Like start this in your parents' basement or something? Like they didn't take what I did seriously. Because I didn't have a brick and mortar. And then on top of that, people not believing that funding college debt free is possible. It was just a lot of mindset things that I had to overcome, but you just got to keep pushing through. And now look at where things are now, doing business online, in so many ways, I guess I was ahead of the curve in so many ways.
Yeah.
But, so for anybody in the audience, if they're pushing through something and it just keep pushing through because you might just be ahead of the curve, but
keep pushing through. You might be ahead of the curve. Wow. Elise, that's so awesome. And, just even hearing, right, that idea, that space that is kind of uncharted, in terms of at least what you could see and research. So I think that's awesome. One thing you said right there, Elise, you said mindset, being that possibly you were ahead of the curve, and that mindset shift of, older people, what, you started this in your parents' basement or something. So what was kind of that mindset shift for you to do something like this? Again, coming from being an athlete, getting a degree in STEM, and now being an entrepreneur, starting a business.
Yeah, I guess the mindset was I just wanted to make a difference in that space. And I just felt like because I had lived it and done it successfinto, like, why not me? You know what I mean? And I just felt like it was something that God was like putting on my heart to do. And so, walking into that, because like I mentioned, my plans were to go to med school and do all those things. But I believe that when God puts something on your heart, it's better just to walk into that, because you can sometimes have that internal conflict of like, but I want to do this, but you're leading me to do this, and dealing with doubt and fear and those things. But it's just amazing how, when you just walk into what God calls you to do, he just opens that doors and makes it happen. And so on paper, it doesn't make sense for me to be an award-winning entrepreneur. I mean, I was just recognized last year, not to like to my horn, because that's not my heart at all, but I'm sharing this to inspire your audience, that like last year I was recognized as one of the top 35 young professionals under the age of 35 in the metro Atlanta area. And I'm saying that because like on paper, that does not make sense. Like it does not make sense for a woman with a cell biology and biotechnology degree to like start a business, then to become an author, and then to be recognized, award winning like that. Like it does not make sense. But like when God puts something on your heart, he's gonna like there's this phrase that says like God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. And so, when God leads you into that direct, like he'll just make a way. And it's just amazing how he'll just open those doors. And so talking about mindset, I was just took that step of faith, like, okay, God, like you're leading me to do this. Like I trust you, and I don't know how this is going to work. And it's just amazing how he just began to bring people into my life. But going back to your question about mindset, when you have that vision, you just got to keep focused on that. And yes, it can be discouraging. Like it was very discouraging, and I was very disappointed and I'm not saying all people from the older generation treated me that way. A lot of people were, very supportive and cheering me on, but just those specific individuals. And like the example I gave you, I was disappointed and that did cause a sense of insecurity in me. Like whenever I would go to these networking events, because I was 22, 23 years old, fresh out of college, and going to these spaces of older generation people, and some of them were saying comments like that, or it was discouraging. And I began to feel kind of insecure in that space. But one thing that I began to recognize was, okay, like, yes, I'm different. Like, I know I'm different. My age makes me different, or whatever it is, I'm different, but I chose to use that to my advantage to stand out. And so I just began to push forward. And, And, if people don't believe in your vision, you just got to keep being focused on that. And it's crazy how sometimes they end up turning around and being your cheerleaders, but you just got to stay focused on that vision. And it doesn't matter, because if other people don't see it, that's okay, because they don't have that vision. So you just got to stay focused on that. And I know it's easier said than done. So even though this was uncharted territory of going in this space, even though, there were some, comments and negativity that I received, but you just got to keep being focused on the mission. And like, was I going to have that stop me from helping a student change their life and create a legacy for themselves and their family and change their family tree? No, that wasn't going to stop me. You guys stay focused on your why. And I think having that why, and I say this to the students that at the Student Navigator that we mentor all the time, like, you have to have that why. Like, why are you on this journey? And I think that's so key and so important. And so just keeping focused on that why and why you're in that journey, when you deal with, naysayers, doesn't matter, because you're focused on
come on. First of all, that when you said, why not me? And then you ended it with focus on your why. But also, I'm gonna go back for just a moment, Elease, before I ask the next question. And I know your heart and your spirit from just, listening to the podcast and then seeing the show on and early in the mornings on Convos. But you say not to toot your horn, but I'm going to toot it and say, beep, beep, congrats. That's amazing. I love it, because that journey, like you said, the journey, I think it will inspire so many. And when we get to that point where I ask any advice that you can give, you're dropping gems already. And so hopefully you out there watching, no matter what your age is, I hope you're taking notes and hearing Elease's heart and that journey of what she said. Stick to your vision. When you have a vision, go for it, no matter what. So going back to now, you started the business, right? And it's established. Maybe that first week of like, okay, here we go. It's a new business. From that point up until now, what are some of the day-to-day challenges that you face as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I would say marketing. I think that's something that, is definitely something that wanting to, because I want this to create awareness. I'm grateful that within the Metro Atlanta area, it's gotten, what we do has, gotten noticed within the Metro Atlanta area. But I don't want this just to be an Atlanta thing. I want this to be this message to really touch people outside of the Metro Atlanta area. And yes, we serve families in other states, but I really just want the Student Navigator to be like a go-to resource. So really, on a struggle on a day-to-day basis in terms of like just wanting to get the word out to, beyond just the local area has been something that, has been a continuous effort. And then also I would say is funding as well, like wanting to scale and go to the next level. Just noticing that a lot of the different funding opportunities that are out there are kind of geared towards product-based businesses. And so as a service-based business, it's been a little difficult, to get some of that funding to scale to the next level, but we're keeping pushing through and we're not going to let that stop us. So
I love it. And I wouldn't expect anything less from you in that journey to keep going. Listen, you talked about something. You said you wanted to spread. So listen, I'm in the Birmingham, Alabama area. To my Chicago audience, Florida, Tennessee, wherever you are, California, Colorado. For those watching, of course, once we get to that, we're going to drop some info in the comments, but that's what I want to say. Like, check it out, because what you do and the approach, and something that, the biggest thing for me, Elease, is I'm like, when I first connected and I listened to the podcast, the first thing I do with a podcast, I go all the way back to like the first episode. And what I did was heard your story, and I heard this, and I'm like, oh my God, why didn't I know this 20 years ago? Like, oh my goodness, the opportunity just as it is amazing. So we talked about some of the challenges, right? Those day-to-day challenges. And thank you for sharing that. If we flip that coin now, what are some of the most satisfying parts of being a young Black woman entrepreneur and doing something that you're passionate about? What are some of the most satisfying day-to-day things, or just being an entrepreneur, period?
Yeah, I'm so grateful. You have this dream to help people. And like during my college journey, when I was a student, I was naturally, sharing my tips and stuff with friends and family, and they saw results too. But like starting a business and seeing, you know, a student graduate debt free, or I got this email from a dad that said, hey, my son is on track to graduate with zero debt, and I want to thank you for the part you played in this process. Or, you know, being in the grocery store at, you know, I don't know if we could say brand names on here, but being at the grocery store and running to a parent that said, hey, you know, my daughter has funded the last 2 years debt free and is on track to fund the next year debt free. It's just those moments, like that's what, you know, is so rewarding. And that's what makes all the struggle worth it, because even if it was just for those students, like to all that adversity that I went through, you know, to have them now be positioned to have that, build a legacy without that burden of student loan debt, and be able to have that future without that burden of student loan debt. It's just, you know, I'm just so grateful for that. And so I think that's the most rewarding part, is just the impact that the lives that have been able to be touched through this.
I love that. At least it's a funny thing, right? How a lot of times the satisfying parts connect us right back to the reason why we started. You know, it's that fulfillment of, wow, I'm helping people to find out more about and to utilize something, the very reason I started this. You know, for me as a life coach and speaker, which you are a speaker too, I don't know if you mentioned that, but just you do so many amazing things. But, you know, as a life coach and a speaker, one of the biggest things for me, the impact is that someone can apply anything that I say or anything that we go through, even from session to session, and it changes them. And so when you can do something you're passionate about and it makes that impact, it's like, yes, that gives you because the next question we'll talk about a little more, again, outside of the gems that you've already dropped, but it gives you that fuel on those tough days, because we hear this often, but it's so true that entrepreneurship and starting a business and running a business and staying in business is not for the faint of heart. It's not for, we hear this, right? And Elease, as you know, and I love it. I love it. I don't discourage anybody, but entrepreneurship and business is very popular, especially in the Black community within the last maybe 5-10 years. And I always just share this, that entrepreneurship is not for everybody. I think anything out there is not for everybody, but you can do it. And so on that note, people watching this and saying, oh my God, Elease it's resonating with me so much, not just the business she had, but her process and how she did it and staying there. So when I get to this point in the interview, for that person that's watching, that young boy, that young girl that's watching and saying, oh my goodness, these two entrepreneurs, they're here. I'm seeing this interview. I'm inspired. I want to do that thing. I want to chase that thing that I'm thinking about. Or that older person, right? You know how you talked about sometimes it comes full circle. This can be one of the very people that saw you and thought, you know, years ago, oh, that's not going to work. Oh my goodness. You know, I remember seeing her at this fair or whatever, and here she is on this interview. So for that person that wants to start a business, or the person who wants to just stick to their entrepreneurship journey, what is some advice that you could share? Again, on top of all the gems you've already sprinkled, what is some advice that you can share with anyone wanting to start a business?
First of all, like if you want to start a business, you know, you absolutely can do it. Like if you have this dream, like you can make it happen, you know. And as you know, my initiative and my podcast is called Break the Odds. You absolutely have what it takes to break the odds and make your dreams a reality. But just like what you said, it definitely takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work. So really make sure before you start this business, make sure, one, it's something that you are truly passionate about, because when that road does not get easy, you have to have that why and that reason inside of you. You have to be so passionate about it to not quit. But also I would encourage you also, there's so many different resources out there as well. And so if that's okay with you, I'd like to share some of those resources with those in your audience. That one that really helped me was SCORE. So this is a nonprofit organization. It's called like SCORE. And what they do is you can meet with someone, they have it where you can meet with either a business owner or a high level executive for free and get mentoring from them. And they have locations all throughout the country. So that was definitely a resource that helped me before I actually like made the business an actual entity, and like trying to, because like I told you, I was 22, had a cell biology degree, like, right, you know, wanting to get that guidance for business. Like if you're able to get advice from someone who's in that space, that definitely was very helpful. And they were able to like navigate me and say, okay, like legally, these are the steps that you should take, and like, and navigate me in terms of like a business plan and like websites, those logistical sides of business. So I just wanted to share that as a resource. But I definitely want to say, like, in terms of, again, like, have that passion when it comes to being passionate. Also just ask yourself, like, how are you going to be a solution to a problem? Because I think the key to like being in business is like, you want to be a solution to somebody's problem, and make sure that that problem is large enough and that it could serve enough people, to be a business. So that's something that I would recognize is like, okay, if you're passionate about this, identify like, how is it a solution? Like, identify what is a problem that you're solving, and how can what you're passionate about fulfill that in others, and then build your niche of what you do around that.
See, I'm telling you, that's why doing this, right? I always share with people the reason why I started this, because a lot of times people say podcast. Technically, I don't have a podcast. I have an interview series on my YouTube channel. And the reason why I started it is this right here, information, because I wanted to give a platform to Black businesses that no matter where they are in their journey, just hearing the ideas and the thoughts behind it and the challenges, and then that point right there, the advice that they can give and share with someone else. And I wanted to put that out there. The same with Impactful Conversations. I wanted to have conversations with people that are doing things in the community, no matter the color, the age, what they're doing. And so this is what it's all about. And you said passion quite a few times and up to this point in this interview. And I love it because, of course, I didn't know you were going to talk about passion so much, but I have my 5P shirt on. And you said something earlier, Elease, where you said, if God's giving you something, that gift, right? Tapping into that and your vision. That's the basis of my 5Ps, like your power. When I say power, that's something that's inside of you, a gift, a talent that no one can take. Maybe you just haven't tapped into it yet. You haven't explored around the corner into that power. So that's the purpose of my 5Ps. Let your power give you a passion that will pin you to your purpose. And once you plan properly, experience prosperity. That 5th P is prosperity. And people hear that and think, oh, money. No, in all areas of life, because part of that prosperity is the days when maybe the finances didn't roll in like it should have this week or this month, but you lay down and you realize that, oh my God, wait a minute, I'm walking in my gift. I'm following my passion. It is my purpose, because a lot of people say, I don't know my purpose in life. I don't know. Hey, what are you passionate about? What's your passion? And so thank you so much for sharing that. Just amazing. Amazing. So you said something, break the odds. So let's break the odds. Talk to me a little bit about, what you talked about, why you started the podcast, but talk to me a little bit about the podcast and what's going on with that.
Yeah, so Break the Odds, it's a podcast. Our mission is to navigate individuals towards breaking the odds in their life, family, career, and communities. And so this is just a space where it serves as just a platform of just positive, good, a space of just positive, good information. And so it's a mixture of motivation and encouragement, but also we interview different industry experts and professionals who share their success story of breaking the odds to reach their level of success, but also like practical tips and strategies for us as listeners. And I say us because even though I'm the interviewer, I'm here taking notes, listening from them.
I know
too.
that's right.
We all have room to grow, and so, but they also share not only their success story of breaking the odds to reach their level of success, but practical tips and strategies for how we as listeners can break the odds in their area of expertise, whether that's starting a business, growing a business, relationships, education, at your job, individuals from all different spaces and industries. So that's really just the mission is, not just getting that positive information, but like how the steps to take to move forward in that. So
that's awesome. So awesome, man. Look, we could stay here all day, just positivity and doing amazing things, accomplishments. I love it. But Elease, I want you to take a moment and just, what's next for Elease Dillard? What's next for you? What's next on that radar for you and your authorship and your speaking, the podcast? What's next?
Yeah. So, when it comes to speaking, I am doing, last year, I got to do a virtual speaking tour. And this is just something that, like talking about in business, we got to get innovative. When the pandemic hit, I was doing in-person speaking engagement. Then when the pandemic hit, like all that went out the window. And,
Yeah.
Talking about the mission that we have of creating awareness and teaching how to fund college debt free, I began thinking like, well, how can we still get this message out here? Because organizations aren't inviting me to speak because of the pandemic and the safety side. So just had this, just decide, let's just do this virtual speaking tour. Like, let's just put it out there. And it's just amazing how, through that I was able to, speak, whether it was at a college or whether it was with a nonprofit organization or within a school system or, middle schools or high schools. It's just amazing how God opened those doors. So next is we're continuing to move forward with that, with the speaking tour. And so now being able to continue that. Also just with the podcast, just continuing to take that to the next level. I'm so grateful that, we've been able to just grow like a global audience, through the time that it's launched. And it's just amazing. Again, like going back to like when God leads you to do something, it turned to something bigger and better. Like this was just designed just to be a podcast, kind of just to serve our students, to get like career insight, from different people to learn. But it's turned to something bigger. People outside of just students are finding value in it. And like someone said, it helps them. They were a middle-aged adult and it helped them when it came to like the next chapter of their life and how to move forward in that. So definitely like with Break the Odds, taking things to the next level with that. And so, yeah, it's just so many things. And then with the Student Navigator, just wanting to move forward in the efforts of collaborating with, different platforms that have larger audiences to get this message out there. So definitely I've been pitching to different TV shows and just different platforms just to, get the word out there so we could serve as many students as we can with this message and to teach them to be that go-to resource. So they don't have to go through this journey alone.
Come on, Elease. You know what? I'm excited. I'm excited that I connected with you. It's so funny because I think the first time I connected with you and Gladys on Convos was the battle, which was a few weeks ago. And it's a beautiful thing when you connect with people that are like-minded in the sense of go-getters and have a goal in life, not just entrepreneurs, but that energy that you feel. And it's like you've been knowing them longer than what you actually have. And so one thing too, I want to share this is just to toot your horn on the podcast. I've talked about energy, right? And I believe in like meditation and different things and affirmations and all of that. And I shared this with you on Convos, but I want to share with my audience part of the amazing impact your podcast had on me. I don't know if it was episode 1 or 2, or maybe the second one I had listened to. And you shared this and you were talking about that idea of being thankful or being grateful or that gratitude, right? And so with all my affirmations, I have 10 daily affirmations that I've had now for about 2 years. Now, of course, I have other ones here and there, but putting in front of it, I'm thankful that and then the affirmation, or I'm grateful that and so I shared that with you on Convos that I put that in there, and it's almost like it took it to the next level of that manifestation. Like instead of me just saying that I have everything I need to be successful, I'm grateful that I have everything I need to be successful. I'm thankful that I have everything. And I'm like, whoa. And I think that next morning, or that morning, I shared that with you, but I wanted to share that because again, with the goal, right? The inspiration that you get from listening to the podcast and your energy, I think it's amazing. And I want to thank you for that because it's awesome in what it's done to that inward mindset for me in terms of how I see my affirmations. So Elease, you're very welcome. Very welcome. I want you to take a moment. Any information that you want to share, how can people find you? Because I know at this moment they're hearing, okay, Mike, get to the point where how can I go to the website because I have a kid in school or I'm in school right now and I need to at least learn that process. Maybe I'm a senior. Maybe for those watching, I'm a senior right now in college and, I'm good, or some things I can start to implement, but I have a younger cousin, a younger friend, a younger sibling that I could share this with, and they won't have to go through what I went through. So let people know any links or any information. Of course, I'm going to put all of this in the description, but anything, resources, or how they can find you and connect and learn more about the awesome things that you do.
Oh, well, thank you for that. So with the Student Navigator, we're on social media at the Student Navigator. So we're on Facebook, Instagram, Clubhouse. We got a club in Clubhouse where we host different, events with topics. And then also my book, Funding College Debt Free, that can serve as a resource. So Amazon seems to be the standard in this world now. So I just say, go to Amazon, to grab it. And then also I have a free Facebook group community called Funding College Debt Free as well. So if you're a student or a parent that's really just looking for that community of other students and parents taking action to fund college debt free and to get that more like personalized tips, then, and guidance, then I definitely want to share that as a resource as well. But if you're someone who's wanting to plug into like one of our programs, you can definitely visit the studentnavigator.com. And that's our website where you can check out our programs and give us a call or send us an email and we can get you plugged in on how to navigate you on this journey. So that's the Student Navigator. Then of course, with Break the Odds, it's a podcast so you could, tune in. We have a blog called letsbreaktheodds.com. And so if you just go there, you'll be able to see the different episodes and be able to tune in from the different platforms that you listen to get your podcasts from. So like iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, some of those other podcast platforms. So yeah, so that's how you guys can tune in. So
awesome. And I encourage all of you to do it. Again, there'll be some links and information in the description. And for those who are watching, who's watched this interview, leave a comment of what stood out to you. Anything that was impactful for you in this interview. Share this with someone that parents, coaches, teachers, students, high school, middle school. Share this out because I think this is such an amazing resource. And as far as I know, is not one that I've heard of in the way that you do it and the way you approach it now. And again, this is the thing. We know that some things are out there, right? Resources out there, but you don't hear about it. A lot of times you don't know about it. So to have this and to hear this, I want to make sure that this gets out to as many people as possible. So share. Again, subscribe. Elease, I thank you so much for doing this interview, taking the time out of your day to do this with me. I appreciate you, and I just wish you the best on everything. And I'm so glad that I could just say, yep, I know her, and I can watch your journey because I know this. There's this. The sky is, the moon, the cloud, the stars are the limit of where you're gonna go, right? So I appreciate you. Any last closing thoughts that you want to leave the people with?
Let's see. I guess I would say, if you have a dream in your heart, like go after it. There's definitely going to be some opposition that you might face, but that's because you're walking in your purpose, in so many ways. I think that's a clue that if you're moving forward in something and you might be facing that opposition when that's something that you're meant to do, that means you're on the right track because it's trying to stop you from doing that, because there's people on the other side you're going to serve. So I just encourage you to keep pushing through it. It's not going to be easy. In my journey, you had talked about finances. There was a point where I was working 3 jobs, and, it was not easy, but you just got to keep pushing through it and just be focused on the lives that you're going to touch. It visualize, the people you're going to serve, at the end of this, on the other side of that, and so I just encourage you just to keep moving forward. You absolutely can do it. Continue to surround yourself with people who are going to support you and where you are going. Prune the people that don't fit that vision of where you're going, that don't serve you, and just keep moving forward on that. And you absolutely can do it. There's so many different resources out there, whether it's, get a mentor. I mean, I can go on and on, but just know that you can do it. You have what it takes to break the odds, and just keep moving forward in that, and it will happen.
Love it. Hey, listen, you throwing me all these alley-oops. Today. Y'all know my 4Ks. Keep going, keep grinding, keep showing, keep shining. Nothing to it but to do it. Listen, thank you again, Elease, for your time and doing this interview. Thank you all for watching. Make sure that you subscribe. Check out the links in the description. Make sure you connect with Elease and let her know, hey, Coach Mike sent me. I saw your dope, amazing interview on Black Business Booming. Let her know that you saw her here. And listen, as always, people, God loves you. So do I. I want you to love life, live love, peace, together, not apart. Y'all take care. We'll see y'all next time on another segment of Black Business Booming. Peace.